It would be a lie to say that the strike decks hasn't made a huge splash in the competitive scene in general. I mean, it makes some of the deck in premium toxic, and at the peak, these decks are some of the most annoying deck to deal with due to its consistent power scaling and also very useful early game resource bomb. But really though, what happened since then? I'm not saying the strike deck are bad nowadays. I mean, Luard is still one of the most flexible Stoichia deck in the roster. Shiranui and Messiah, though not exactly is top tier, they are still pretty much good in their own right under the right circumstances. Then we have Luard. It is safe to say Luard does went through the most interesting evolution out of all the strike deck, partially because the thing that he got hit with kind of turned him into a different style of the deck completely. And surprisingly enough, Luard still see presence here and there over the 3 years he has been around as well. And now that it is time for him to get the third strike, he ended up get essentially the weakest ratio boost from the original G era.
Hey yo, what the f—
I'm not gonna lie, it made me think a lot, and I feel I have an interesting thought about these brand new strikes. And yes, he lost a lot of aura, but not as bad as you think it is. Why exactly is that? That is exactly what I'm gonna be talking about today. So before we get to the strike itself, we have to talk about the evolution of Luard first, because I feel it is important to the context of the brand new strike. As I mentioned earlier, Luard has gone through quite an interesting evolution since then, purely because of the fact that not only he is Shadow Paladin, but he also has some of the best resource generation skill in the game, including his strike skill. Some of his Rega also generate resource, and thanks to his special ratio 3 skill, you also kind of able to stall the game quite a little bit as well. All of these elements allow him to have us very strong access to units like Diaduring and Diera, allowing you to cycle for your Ezra's, which is Shadow Paladin PG, or any of the Shadow Paladin unit if possible. And the deck also has enough space to run unusual units like the Honoli Stopper that Keter has, or essentially just any engine possible in the Keter pile in general. And that is also the reason why he is the only other Keter deck aside from Raziel that was banned from having a dog in his deck. I mean, that card just gives so much value for the deck in the earlier part of the game, to an extent that they have to remove it to force him into a completely different playstyle that ended up actually work, and that is stall. Partially due to his ability to be able to recycle resource, generate a lot of resource, and at the same time does able to exert decent pressure due to a lot of filtering. So Luard at this point had reached to a place where the deck definitely can perform what it needed to be, and for some of the base deck in the format right now, it is a matter of skill check whether are you able to actually break through the stalling game that Luard has in general. So what does a brand new strike does for him? And if you guys need a little bit of a refresher, Luard has gotten multiple support over his time in G era. I'm not gonna call V because that's a mistake. There are definitely certain part of his time where his support were a little iffy. The first one was during Drug Strider era, where he do get some powerful toolbox at that point of time, but his strike is still a little bit on the questionable side. And then we have the Ogma part, the ratio 5 era I would put it, where we got Drug Anger Ogma. Before we talk about the skill, what the fuck happened, man? He lost so much aura that even that meme Feren viral photo has so much more aura than what we are seeing here. Like, here is the original Ogma, and here is our new Ogma. I'm not saying the design is bad, but holy shit, he lost a lot of aura just from a different angle. That highlights even more on how important the perspective is, doesn't it? Anyway, this unit has a skill relatively similar to his original version, but safe to say, both weakened and also strengthened in some ways, as X once per turn, Generation Break 3, ratio 5. So plus 1 and retire up to 5 rear guard with different card names. Your opponent choose the same number of their rear guards equal to the number of unit retired by this cost and retire them. If 3 or more unit was retired for this cost, you draw a card and this unit get additional ability where when this unit attack, counter blast 1, choose one of your rear guard with ratio ability and stand it. And that unit and this unit got additional 5k for each copy of Ogma face up in your G zone until end of turn, of course.
That's it?
Yeah, there is some debuff and there is some buff in a way. For one, his skill doesn't really change too much from the original. You're still able to retire up to 5 rear guard to essentially retire multiple rear guards on the field. But the difference here is that in the original version of Ogma at least able to force discard your opponent's hand, which is actually very useful for a deck that is supposed to be all about stalling actually. And I do feel that is quite huge of a loss. I do understand current Luard is very different from the Luard during the time of Ogma, but it is kind of a shame that Bushiroad decided to go on an easier route on this and decided to give this unit a generic restand skill. A restand skill that, credit due to as do, kind of works if you know what to do with it. You see, this card restand reshow units only, which as much as it is restrictive, allow you to restand more faster. So essentially it does allow you to go into 6 attack with this unit as well, provided you want to commit the 3 counter blast that is. So in a way, they kind of make the discard aspect, essentially forcing your opponent to guard more because multiple attack. So what does Ogma has a use right now in the current era? Well, stalling.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
I mean, it is safe to say Bushiroad definitely have taken into account that Luard has been seen as the de facto stall deck for quite a while now, and credit due to as do, Ogma does do the job well in that regard. The fact that you can pretty much wipe the entire board if needed to can affect a lot of decks in the current meta as well, especially decks like Virgila, which do rely on that intercept, or even Prison, who has a lot of units you do not want them to be retired, like Rifle Royer, Citron, or Lilac for defense. So in general, the mass retire is useful, even if it is the most basic version of the retire. But it also have another use that I think a lot of people did not realize, and I personally also did not realize until I tried to research more into this unit in general. And that is the fact that Ogma is a perfect flip target for Drug Driver, as now you don't have to actually waste your Drug Rider for the skill at all, allowing you to actually pretty much go every turn with Drug Rider if needed to. So in a way, Ogma is kind of like a card that make the stall playstyle work and at the same time turn himself to a decoy so that other stride that this deck has can actually shine. I think that's not a bad thing, but I do feel for a support that we have to wait close to 2 years for it is definitely on the more disappointing side. Especially the card that comes with it, Drug Wizard from Nak, is not saying it's bad, but kinda disappointing, as this unit only has one skill where Generation Break 2 ratio 5. This unit cannot be chosen by your opening card effect and gets additional 5k. And if you have Ogma Vanguard, if this would be retired for the cost of your Vanguard ability, it may be regarded as retiring to free guard. Having a card that reduces the total cost you needed for the Ogma for the same amount of retire is good, but I wish it could have one more skill. You see, Nak in the original iteration of her does have 2 skills, one of which is not very good, it just kind of bit like a bully gun, but at least it is still 2 skills. Meanwhile, this one has only 1, and yes, I know the skill kind of split out into 3 different parts. It still feels like giving Nak back the draw skill that she has originally doesn't really hurt that much. At least that's how I feel. Especially, you probably will be retiring that race unit anyway, so I do feel it's a little bit annoying that they kind of one step up and one step down with this unit in general. So, do I think Luard's gonna become meta again? Maybe not, but it definitely became a deck that we have to be more careful around once the booster come out, purely because the deck now have a bit more offensive option now, and the deck now have actually a retire option, or essentially a stall option, which does improve upon what the deck is capable of. But what do you guys think? Do you think they should bring back other unit instead of Ogma for Luard? Do leave down in the comments below. And yeah, that's all I have for today. Take care of yourself, don't forget to clap that sub and become a member for some cool perks. This is Mac Megane signing out.